Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video. As always, there is a bonus pair in store. I'll quickly go through my trades for the week first and then progress into the analysis. We'll take a look at the dollar as well and then go through the rest of the pairs. If there is a particular pair you do want to skip ahead to see the analysis for, feel free to do so. Timestamps are below. But I had one new position this week and I'm still holding my Aussie CHF short from a couple weeks back. So the new position I had was on Euro Aussie. This unfortunately ended in a loss. Was looking for a continuation of the breakout of this support level. We had one fake out. Price had a pullback within the range, broke back again, took out the lows. So I was expecting another lower high to form. We had some nice confidence to this area, really strong rejection. I was looking for the continuation, at least back to the prior low, but I was looking to see if I can hold on to some positions back into this area, expecting a bigger break to the downside. Of course, as we can see, that didn't happen. Price broke to the upside. We actually had two fake outs to the downside, and now price is rejecting that high there. So no longer really interested in Euro Aussie. The only thing I was really interested about with this pair was the breakout opportunity to the downside. Potentially might even be breaking to the upside now, but I was interested in the break to the downside. Of course, we didn't get that, and price did break to the upside. So took a loss on that position. Aussie CHF I'm still holding from a couple weeks back. This one's almost to take profit, which is the low here. As I've said, I will be looking to close most of the position at the low, but I will be looking to hold some back to 0.53643, which is basically the wick low there. Again, in the higher time frames, Aussie CHF has been in a long-term bearish trend, so the chances are price does push back to that low. So I am looking to hold and really take full advantage of the position, but because it's a very choppy pair, can consolidate for a while, and negative swaps as well. I don't want to hold onto the position for the full swing back to the low, because that could take potentially 6 months, and I don't really want to hold a position for 6 months. So looking to target the low there, almost at that area. Hopefully early next week can go hit it, take some profit, already at break even, so there's no risk on the table, and then we'll go from there. But those are the new positions I had running this week. In terms of the dollar, this one has had a pretty bullish week. Been looking for some retracement for the DXY. I'm still bearish, still looking to see if we can put another low high in this area for a swing back to the downside. This is going to be a very pivotal area next week, because of course if price does break through this, well, we've got a breakout of that channel and possibly dollar is bullish back to the highs and maybe so on and so forth. So it's a very pivotal area. If we put another lower high in this area, then that continues the selling pressure, and probably at that point we come back into these lows and probably see a much bigger bearish trend. So it's make or break for the dollar. At the moment I'm expecting that area to hold. Of course we're not there yet. We need to see how price reacts and what we get. Do we get wicks? Do we get rejection, bearish engulfing candles? That's what we'll be looking at in that zone. If of course this momentum continues, we just see bullish candle after bullish candle breaking out, and obviously no sign of price turning around, I'll stay away and possibly start looking for breakout opportunities. But for now, I am looking at some shorts there for the dollar for a push back to the low. So weakness for the dollar. And Euro USD, I'm pretty much looking at the exact opposite in terms of the analysis, which is looking for the next high low here, one there, second one there, looking for a third. Nice confidence coming back into that trend line, as well as that nice area of demand. This gave us a nice low here for a strong push to the upside. Looking to see what we can do at that area again. If price can reject it again, throw some wicks, rejection, maybe a nice double bottom. That could be a nice entry signal to take it back into resistance, which we pulled away from this week at 1.05250, possibly further as well if price really wants to see this turnaround. And if this bowl shape does continue, this could really invite a really big move to the upside. So there is definitely upside potential there for euro. Of course, if dollar's going to respect that area, putting the low high in and drop, then euro is most likely going to do the exact opposite. So there's a lot of upside opportunity, not quite at these areas yet. So again, important to see how we get there, how we react. That will paint the picture for us and give us the signals to long or stay away. But this is the opportunity I'm very interested in next week. Of course, if price does break through, I back away, because at that point we've got a breakout, and most likely we'll probably end up back at these lows and maybe even continue the trend as well. So break through that confluence, I'll definitely step away from that bullish bias and probably start looking at some shorts there for euro. But for now, that is the plan I have for next week. Keep an eye on 1.0334 and looking to target 1.052 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So I'm still very bearish on this pair, looking for a really big move to the downside. My targets are back to this level of support, just above 140. It did look like at one point price was going to push back to the high there, but since then we've really failed. We've come to the downside very aggressively, and it looks like price is trying to break through support, although we are holding on to it right now. But the odds of price continuing to the upside here look pretty slim. We had a very strong move to the upside, I think a couple of weeks back, Price looked as if it tried to break to the upside, but all it did was just form another low high. And we saw a lot of bearish momentum on the way down, and we ended up just about spiking through. Didn't see it close below, which would have been a more confident sign that we're breaking through the lows. Wicks below indicate more rejection, but the fact that we are piercing the low is still something significant. So I'm expecting more downside for dollar yen, but at the moment we are rejecting support. So what I'm looking at is two scenarios. One's a little bit safer than the other, but the other kind of gives you the better entry. So either waiting for price to break to the downside, this is the safe option. Wait for price to clear support, because at that point, of course, that support is no longer to contend with. We've broken through, and then looking for some opportunities to short below, catch the next low high, and so on and so forth. We have a lovely bearish trend here, which I'm expecting to continue, and if you can continue that below this support level, the confluence is very much in our favor, and the odds of price seeing that push back to 140 goes up a lot. The other opportunity, which is looking for a lower high, which could form in the next couple of days, because at the moment price is respecting support pretty well. Looks like we are going to push the upside. So this is coming to a make or break area for dollar yen, because if this trend is going to continue, we need to keep up with those lower highs. We don't want to see price start doing this and breaking to the upside, because that gives us the impression that, okay, this bearish trend is now broken, and possibly we might be seeing a push to the upside. So we don't want to be seeing price break to the upside if we're going to be bearish, of course. So what we can do is look to try and take that short. If price does push up, form a lower high, catch that short and potentially catch the breakout. And of course, what that does is that puts you at a higher price. So again, maximizing your profit from there to the low. Again, like I said, a bit more aggressive because you're still above support. So this is still very much a possibility. But if we do catch a breakout, if we are going to see that higher time frame sell, that's where it's going to likely come from. Of course, like I said, if you're waiting for something a bit more confirmed, a bit more safer, this would be the opportunity, because at least support is broken, and now the likelihood of us seeing more downside, the chances would be a lot higher because of that. So dollar yen, very bearish. Two opportunities which I do like. I'm gonna keep an eye on both of them, see how entries do form there. Like I said, if price does start breaking through the high, I'll leave it alone, and if I can get the short there, great. And if I can find some additional entries here, that's even better, and really take advantage of this opportunity for dollar yen. Long term, looking for a push to the low though at 140. Not too sure if I will do that in one go. Definitely probably leave positions to run though, small positions to run if things look good. But in terms of targets, probably take most of my profit at the low here. If I do short here, I take most of my profit at the low, leave some positions to run. And again, if I do get a short here, wherever that next low forms, let's say it forms here, I'll take most of my profit there and then leave a little bit to run as well. So not trying to shoot for the moon, but definitely trying to maximize my wins by making sure I'm in line with those bigger targets and leaving some positions to do some heavy lifting. So that's the plan I have for dollar yen. Keep a close eye on 151 for some shorts, 151.3 and 149.5, and targets at 140. Okay, so next up we've got USD CAD. So USD CAD, I'm still pretty bearish on this one, looking for another low high to form. We had that massive gap to the upside a couple of weeks back, followed by that aggressive sell-off, and I'm very much still looking for the continuation of that. We do have a nice level here at 1.45. This is like my last point of call for dollar CAD. If we break through this, then I'll definitely back away from the shorts. We didn't hold this consolidation. That was the first area. We had some minor rejection there, but nothing really concrete. So I did stay out the market, and now we've had that bigger pullback. So I'm going to look to see what we can do at this level here at 1.45. I believe we've also got the 50 of the fib as well, more or less in that area, 0.5, 0.618. So it's a healthy correction for dollar CAD. And if you are going to put lower high, this is the area I expect that to happen. prior resistance over there held pretty well. Price kind of manipulated that level. Now we're back at the same level for a reaction. So at least looking for a push back down into this low, which is actually the prior low of the range. You can probably view this as more of a fake out, to be honest. Fake out in one direction, fake out in the other, and price is still pretty much just been within the range. So now we're back at the high, looking for a reaction back into the low, but possibly if we are going to start a bit of a bearish trend, then we could expect to see a push back to this low here as well. So depends how aggressive you want to be with your targets. The low of the range would be the more probable target, because number one, it's closer, and number two is the low of the range. So just in case in price respects that and wants to stay within the range, you targeting there will allow you to take your profits. Of course, looking for the break to the low, you do run the risk of price doing something like that and going against you. But if the trend is going to continue, you would expect it to do so. And of course, you have a much bigger risk reward as well. So again, there's no right or wrong necessarily. It's just about how aggressive or conservative you want to be. I like the opportunity for a push to that area. If you can get 1 to 2, 1 to 3, I think that's a great trade. You can always leave some profits to run back into the low if you want to be a bit more aggressive with maximizing your winners as well. But in terms of where we're coming to, nice level. The retracement has been pretty aggressive, so I do want price to kind of slow down, provide some wicks, shift in momentum there before I do find any opportunities. But that is definitely the area I'm looking to short from. So that is the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so next up we've got Euro Pounds. Euro Pound I'm still pretty bearish on. We have seen some continuation of that. Again, we had this kind of impulse to the upside followed by a very strong move back down. So that was the impression I got in terms of, okay, price tried to push to the upside, but all we did was just form a lower high in this long-standing bearish trend. So the probability of us getting back to the prior low here is pretty high, and probably new lows as well. So with Euro Pound, last week I mentioned some pullbacks. I talked about the retest of this range here for some shorts. Unfortunately, didn't quite see enough of a pullback to get the retest there before price did continue. Since then, we've broken through support. Looks like we've had a bit of a retest. In terms of opportunities, I'll scale right down to like the hourly chart and look to see if I can take advantage of the rest of the move back to the low. In terms of opportunities, there's two I'm looking at. Either price comes back for another retest of that same area from this week, or perhaps we get the breaking retest of this low and we look for some shorts there. Again, I'll probably even drop even lower, more so to the 30 or 50 minute chart, and expect more downside. It's not such a big opportunity I'm favoring this week with Euro Pound. I mean, we could break through this level and go a lot further, but there is a gap to be filled here. The trend is still very much down. We're still seeing a lot of bearish momentum, so the probability of price getting to that low and seeing new lows is pretty high. And if you can take advantage of that probability, there you've got a nice trade set up an opportunity. So with Euro Pound, expecting more downside. There's not a lot of pips to catch here, so Euro Pound doesn't have a lot of pips anyway. There's not a big swing I'm favoring here for Euro Pound just yet. I'm going to see how price reacts with that low, potentially bounce to the upside. So that would be more of a discussion for next week. But for this week, for right now, there is still room to the downside. So drop to the low time frames, because on the 4-hour chart or any high, you're not going to get a decent risk to reward. The trade probably wouldn't be worthwhile, to be honest. But if you drop to low time frames, hourly, 30 minute, whether you get a retest of 0.827, which would be this level of support, price potentially could come back and retest that level. That's where you want to find your entries, and you can get a relatively safe stop loss above. Or if you scale right down, you can probably find some entries on the retest of that low. I'm expecting price to go and hit this level next week and probably form some new lows as well. So not a big swing at play, but we can see how consistent the market is with these lower lows and lower highs. So the probability of that continuing, at least those lows, is pretty high. So expect more downside. Let's see if we can get another retest of the low, but expecting new lows next week. Okay, so next up we've got Aussie dollar. So I've been pretty bullish for this one for a while, looking for a bounce as we approach the consolidation here. Unfortunately, didn't really see any confirmations for that. As we can see, price did have a really big break through that zone. So I'm backing away from Aussie dollar for now, at least with that bullish bias. It does look like we're heading back to support. There's a lot of momentum in that move, so this move is not to be played with. It's not like price continued to the downside correctively. We picked up the pace quite aggressively, and price had a really big move. And of course, we took out these lows here on the left as well. So with Aussie dollar, I do expect to see a bit of a correction next week and more downside. I think there could be a nice bounce as we do approach support again, because this is still a very big support level on the higher time frames. If you go to the weekly chart, you can see where we're trading back at the prior low here on the left. So it is still a very big level where we could bounce and turn around from, but momentum has definitely kicked in bearish again, and we've broken through some lows pretty aggressively. So I would be very careful about taking longs. If we do see some strong rejection at this low, there very much could be a nice bounce next week. But for now, I do expect to see a bit of a correction and more continuation. Perhaps maybe if you come back to this area here where we have prior resistance, where we had that last bullish candle there before the drop, that would be a nice place for a short. If you're more fixated on the longs for Aussie dollar, then like I said, I'll wait for us to approach that support level before looking for a bounce, because at least there we can get a safe stop loss, and we know that we're right at the bottom here. So if the market is going to turn, this is the best place possible for that to happen. But there's a very, very strong move. If we continue to the downside correctively, then perhaps I'll be more favorable for a move to the upside. But because it was so aggressive, breaking through the lows, I do expect to see more downside next week for Aussie dollar. Looks like Aodu and NZD are pretty weak right now, so probably going to see some more downside anyway, and then we'll see what we can do at support if we turn or not. But that's the opportunity I'm looking at next week for Aussie dollar. Okay, so over to New Zealand CAD. So it looks like we had a pretty bearish move this week. I wasn't too sure if we were going to have the breakout of the resistance here, because we did break through the trend line, or respect it. As we can see, we did form a really aggressive double top this week, and it looks like that bearish move I've been expecting looks like it's slowly coming back into play. Haven't been a big fan of the price action, so I haven't been looking for opportunities, but it looks like momentum is coming back into the market, and I've been looking for a push back into that low there. It looks like we might be seeing the continuation of that. Price did kind of poke its head above the trend line, but it's back now comfortably. So I've been looking for price to respect this channel here. We've done it a few times. We had that nice double top over there. It looks like price has formed an even bigger one, and now it looks like we're continuing to the downside. So in terms of finding more opportunities on New Zealand CAD, it's a bit of an awkward place. Preferably you want to have a stop loss above the high there, rather than try and finding small opportunities within this kind of channel, within the range, because that's where you're going to get the most fluctuation and the most noise. Preferably you want to be up high, and that kind of boat has sailed. But you can still find opportunities on some pullbacks which are a little bit more aggressive. The odds of price playing out are a little bit lower, not in terms of the direction, but in terms of just entry and stop loss, because your stop loss is not really in a very safe place. If it would be above the high there. Stop losses above support and resistance in these areas are a little bit more, are less stable, because more fluctuation will occur and it's not above a meaningful area. So price breaking through is not as a big of a deal as it would be breaking through the high over there. But it's still an opportunity regardless. Just because it's a less significant level of support and resistance doesn't mean it doesn't hold. But preferably, if I'm looking to trade New Zealand CAD, I would be looking to enter up there. And since I haven't, that boat is sailed, I'll step away and look for the next opportunity, which could take a while before it does form, because I'll be looking for more downside, next pullback, which could take a couple of weeks, potentially even longer. But if you're looking to trade it next week, I do expect momentum to kick back in. And if you can break through some lows, looking for some retests on the underside would definitely be the play. Expecting a push back into the lows here, so that could be a target, or even the low here as well. Depends how aggressive you want to be, but that will be the plan next week for New Zealand CAD. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So I've been waiting for a big break of this consolidation, because I've been a little bit unsure about which way the market was going to move. So I'm wanting price to break out, and then I'll look to follow the move in whichever direction. As we can see, it's comfortably a bullish move to the upside here, breaking through the highs. And this is the type of pullback which I really do want to follow, because it's assertive. There's big candlesticks, there's a lot of momentum. So it's not a breakout where price just about clears the level where we could view that as maybe a bit of manipulation, price having a bit of a fake out to come back inside the level. This is a very, very confident break. So the odds of price respecting this area, should we come back to revisit and retest, is a lot higher versus when we have kind of a more shallow breakout with more corrective price action. So really comfortable move to the upside. Of course, the trend has been very bullish for a while now. You can see the successive high lows. So it looks like we just got the continuation of that. So if that is the case, I'm looking for price to come back, form the next high low, and continue that journey until we start to break through some major structure. I won't be looking for any sell opportunities. I did say if price did break the downside, cleared out some lows, then I'll start looking for some sells. We never got that. Price broke to the upside, and we do have some nice confidence back down here for some buys. So that's the opportunity I do like for pound NZD next week. Again, it might take a full week for us to get there, so you have to be patient with this one. But I like it. It's a really big move. It could end up being a nice swing trade opportunity. You got the 50 of the fib in that area there as well, and targets back to where we came from make the most sense as well. So keep a close eye on 2.22. Like I said, it might take a while to get there because I'm expecting a bit more of a corrective move back down. If you can respect that level, provide some nice confirmations, we'll be looking for some entries to take it back into the high and maybe even further as well if the trend does continue. But that's the plan next week for pound NZD. Okay, so next up we've got CAD Yen. So very bearish on this pair, very bearish across the board for the Yen pairs. And I'm expecting new lows past this point here at 101.682. So the plan is, can we find a pullback to short the next lower high, anticipate the next lower high, and see if we can ride it back to these lows? Again, for next week, the target probably would be wherever we pull back from. Let's say if we pull back and form a low here to have a correction and form another lower high. Of course, that will be the target for the trade, but in terms of the direction of the market, I am expecting a lot more downside. I've pointed out many occasions the big head and shoulder pattern we've got on the daily chart, left head, right shoulder, with this kind of being the neckline. I'm expecting that to break and really open to the downside longer term. So I'm very bearish on CAD Yen, and the plan for myself is only looking for shorts, not really interested with the longs whatsoever really. And if we can pull back, I'm looking at another retest of this trend line, and then I'm looking to short. So if we can get that pullback into that trend line, looking for another lower high, and then, like I said, targets more or less back down below, but leaving positions to run because we're expecting a lot more downside, expecting very strong yen over the next kind of few weeks, few months really. So all the yen pairs I pretty much have that bearish bias for, and the structure is pointing in that direction, which is the most important thing. Doesn't really matter what my bias is. If the market structure is showing shorts, then we can short the pair, and that's exactly what we have right now. And I like the momentum. We picked up a little bit. Things were a bit corrective. Now we saw this leg to the downside, clearing out the lows. We picked up momentum, so the structure is looking a lot more attractive to short now. So hopefully you can find a pullback. Chances are we might just roll over. If that's the case, you probably want to drop to maybe the 15-minute to find pullbacks there. If you're looking for a bit more of a swing, we need to at least see a swing to the upside so we can short it. So that's the plan next week. Keep an eye around 106.4, 107 for entries on that trend line, but looking to short it back to 103.500 and eventually 101.600 for next week. Okay, so next up we've got pound USD. So I am pretty bullish on pound, looking for more upside. Again, looking at my analysis on the dollar, looking for a lower high to form for a push down. If that is the case, then pound USD most likely will push in the opposite direction, and we are seeing a structure that is pointing in that direction as well. We're seeing higher highs and higher lows. You can see a lovely trend line connecting these previous higher lows, 1, 2, 3. Looking to anticipate a fourth. We've got the prior high over there. At least looking for a bounce from this area of confluence back to the high, but more so if the trend does continue, we do have some extended targets at 1.279. There's of course a big level of support and resistance running through the market at 1.25, a nice psychological level as well. You can see previous support a couple of times, resistance twice. So there's a good chance we can react and see some upside, but of course, confirmations are very, very important. Should price go and break through this, I will definitely back away from pound. Doesn't mean we can't potentially break through and then push up, but if we do break to the downside, we do lose a lot of confluence, so the probability of seeing that move does diminish. Like I said, it doesn't mean it can't happen, but it does mean I'll be backing away. This is really the area which I'll be attacking the buys from, and if I don't see the confirmations there and we break through, I will back away. But should we, I'll be looking for entries, stop loss below roughly, and looking to target at least the push back to the high there at 1.269, and potentially if things go well, if there's a lot of bullish momentum, we can be looking to target 1.279 as well. But that will be the plan next week for pound USD. Okay, so next up we've got pound CAD. So I haven't been a big fan of pound CAD because it's just been ranging between support and resistance. The overall trend is up, yes, but we've been struggling to break the high of 1.81250 roughly, and struggling to break the low here at 1.75. So the market has just been fluctuating between high and low. I've been waiting for a breakout. It looks as if we might be getting that. Again, a big emphasis on the might because we've just seen a kind of half-hearted candle closures to the upside. With a few wicks there as well, kind of mimicking what we did last time, and you can see what happened last time. We came back within the range and had a big sell. So of course, if Monday, Tuesday, or whenever we see a big candle break into the downside like that, we're back to square one. And we're kind of looking for reactions and continuations to the downside. So that could be an opportunity within itself if we do close back below, because you've got your fake count and expecting follow through. I'm also concerned with the breakout opportunities, because that's where the momentum will lie and the bigger moves will lie as well. So I'm looking to see if we can have a more confident breakout first, and then I'll be looking for some pullbacks, retests, and continuations, and looking to take some entries on the retest at 1.815. Like I said, if things stay stale, we move sideways, don't really see a more confident breakout, and of course, if we definitely close back within the level, within the high, I would definitely scrap that bullish bias around, and well, expecting more downside. Not really an opportunity I'm looking to trade myself, but it would most likely indicate more downside there for pound CAD. So very bullish if we can get the more confident breakout. Hopefully early next week we set the standard, see some nice upside, then look for pullbacks. Of course, looking for the retest of that level. In terms of targets, we haven't been at these prices for a while. Last time we were here was roughly back in 2018, so yeah, definitely more than a few years ago. There is a big level there at 1.835, so that could be a nice target to keep an eye on, but really depends where we break out to. Let's say if we have a breakout and price creates a new high, let's say here-ish, and then we get the pullback, that high then will of course make a lot of sense for a target. Of course, the daily high is not too far beyond us, so that makes sense as well to maybe hold positions to that level. But wherever that breakout is always a good target to have. So that's really what I'm looking at there for pound CAD. More confident break, momentum, distance, that's the key thing I'm looking at. Hopefully come back for a retest at 1.85, and then we can take it back to the highs and potentially further as well. And since it's a pretty big range, if we do really break out, I expect a lot of upside, not just a slight move. So we can discuss that close to the time, but for now, that's the opportunity I'm looking at for next week for pound CAD. Okay, so over to pound yen. So still very bearish on this one, looking for a lot more downside. Again, expecting price to eventually take out that wick low. If I bounce the daily chart, you can see we've had that big drop in last year, July, and I'm still looking for us to come back and attack those lows. In terms of an opportunity, we are still seeing bearish structure overall. However, the past 2 weeks have kind of been a little bit stale for pound yen. We had that big aggressive retracement, and we have seen some downside in fairness, but it's just been very corrective, and pretty much this week we had a lot of consolidation. So I want us to pick up the pace in terms of momentum like we had not long ago. Lovely drop to the downside, really showing commitment with the bears there, breaking through lows, especially with that move there as well. Now it's become a little bit dry, so I'm hoping we can pick up the pace, break through some lows, and then of course the plan will be to look for the next pullback, next lower high. And I really like this area of confluence with the trend line and price support. Potentially we might not see a pullback as big as that, so I'll keep an eye on this low here as well, but that definitely would be my preferred area to short from. Nice stop loss placement above the high. Of course, targets will be back to the prior low, but longer term looking for that push into 180, which is that daily wick I just explained there as well. So with pound yen, still very bearish. Couple of areas I'm looking at, but the key thing is we need to pick up the pace. We need to see that momentum with the sellers here. Otherwise, you might be very corrective and even break to the upside for a much more complex pullback, which could take some time. But if you could pick up the pace, similar to what CAD yen's doing, really nice move to the downside. I think pound, in fairness, has been a bit strong, so that's probably why we've been a bit slower. But if you pick up the pace, yen gains some strength, looking for a break and retest of 187.250 or 189.600 for some shorts, and eventually looking for a push back to 180. And that'll be planned next week for pound yen. Okay, so over to gold. So gold, I am now bearish on this one. Not overall, still very bullish, still looking for a push back to 3K. Again, if I expand to the daily chart quickly and just look at the overall picture, you know, this is a very, very bullish market, but we have broken some structure in the 4-hour chart. We've seen some nice bearish momentum. I do think we are now in a bit of a retracement phase where the market might see a bit more downside before potentially going bullish later on. I have marked out the swing high here as an area which maybe we could see a retest of. We could go a lot deeper than that, but at least I'm looking for a push into 27.89, which is that high. And you can see the structure we've broken. We had a really strong move breaking through the lows here. This was some really strong resistance and support not long ago. So as we can see, resistance was used as support. Really nice continuations of that level. But since then, we have broken through. Price had a lot of struggle trying to break through the high this week, and it just didn't amount to much. And we had a really strong drop there. So with gold, I'm looking at a correction, a lower high and some retracements. I like this area here at 2900. Brief support there, price consolidated, did see a strong break to the downside. So essentially looking for a retest of that, the next lower high, and then some more shorts. I think if you can drop to maybe the hourly chart or even lower, probably refine your entry a lot better than the 4-hour chart. But that is the opportunity I'm looking at. And again, in terms of keeping it simple, let's say if we do pull back from here, that would make for a good target. Don't necessarily have to trade it back into the low, into the prior high there, because it's always a bit more aggressive when you are shorting a very bullish market or buying a very bearish market in terms of trying to push your targets, because at any point really gold can just say, okay, it's time to be bullish now, and we start flying. There's still a very bullish market. Yes, we've had a break of structure, but let's not get it twisted. We're still very much in retracement phase, so we have to show respect to that. So a push back to the low here will look very good. Potentially can go a little bit further, but again, a bit more riskier. And then maybe when we're there, we can start talking about some buys and maybe some opportunities to swing gold back to the highs again. But that will be a discussion probably for next week or maybe the week after. But for now, this is what I'm looking at, keeping a close eye on 2900. I like that zone there. See if we can get a retest and some more downside next week. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, really big drop this week. Things are looking pretty bearish, and I'm expecting more of the same. Looks like gold looks like it's having a bit of a retracement. Bitcoin's joining the club as well. Or it might be the other way around. Bitcoin's had a really aggressive move. But yeah, both of them are looking pretty bearish, and I'm expecting more of the same. Still very long overall on both of them as well. Bitcoin, we got a lovely level of support around 72k, which I'm looking for the retest of. So the plan very much for the next week or two, or however long it takes for us to get there, is looking for some pullbacks, a retest of the level we just broke from, then look and see if we can short it back into that low at 72k. Really like this opportunity because we had a lot of momentum for the breakout. It's not like Bitcoin can just slowly roll to the downside. We had a lot of force in this move. Bitcoin was not messing around at all. As we can see, 3 big candles there. Of course, recently, big wick there to the downside. So it looks like we are finding support here. However, the key thing is that the support has broken. So as long as we don't shoot straight back above, I'm expecting more downside. And then perhaps in a week or two, or whenever it happens, we can start speaking about some longs from these areas. But for now, still pretty bearish. The plan is looking to short it from around 90, 91k, 92k. In this area in general, that's where we're looking to short it from. Take it back into lows and back into that daily/weekly level at 72k. So that is the plan next week for Bitcoin. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which for this week is silver. So similar to gold, things looking pretty bearish there. And likewise with silver, things are looking pretty bearish here as well. And I actually like silver a little bit more than gold. The opportunity looks a little bit better. But I'm expecting similar moves. I'm expecting gold to retrace, and likewise with silver. The thing about silver, which I like more than gold, is that we are rejecting a really, really big level. So for that reason, I expect downside. And gold is kind of in the middle of nowhere. We're not necessarily hitting a big level. It just looks like price is reversing. Silver, the same thing, but we're hitting a big level, so it adds a bit more confidence to the trade. But you can see with silver, really big level here. If we did get the break of this, I'm looking for price to make the move back to the high there at 34.8. That never was the case. We did look like price was breaking through, but it was never very clean. We also had that wick a week ago, a couple of weeks ago, which made things a bit awkward. And now we've seen a lot of momentum to the downside, and we're breaking through some trend lines here on the 4-hour chart. So if that's the case, I'm expecting a lot more downside and possibly a swing back to 28.8. which is the prior low over there as well. So I do still see a lot of downside here for silver. I like the move here, breaking through the lows, and now there's a couple of areas where I'm looking to short from. Either a retest of this area, although I need the breakout to be a bit bigger than that. I'm never really looking for shallow break and retest. If, let's say, silver keeps falling on Monday, Tuesday, and then we get the pullback, this might be the opportunity I'll be looking at. Or if price has formed a low already and we do retrace, then I'll be looking at this area here. Prior support, lovely break, looking for the retest of that at 32.12. Or like I said, if price is a bit more bearish next week and we we continue to sell off, then this is likely the area I'd focus on. But the plan is catch that lower high for silver. I'm expecting a pretty big drop. Again, doesn't have to be necessarily the big target, the home run back to the low here. Even this is a very suitable level of support to target, just above 30, big psychological level as well. So that level can make a lot of sense there too. It's up to you how aggressive or conservative you want to be with your targets. But the plan, the analysis is looking to short silver. We've broken through a key trend line there. So the higher lows of this trend is kind of, again, hasn't necessarily ended because we haven't technically broken through big structure, but the trend line breaking is a sign for more downside. The fact that we're rejecting the big key level on the daily chart is a huge sign of more downside. And the fact that we've had that very impulsive move, now we're looking for a lower high of that, we can expect more downside as well. So it's just about how far we push. Depends which level I would look to short from, but keep an eye on both 31.39 and 30.093. In those areas, I'm looking to take it down and expecting a long-term push back to 28.4. And that will be the plan next week for silver. And that does take us to the end of the analysis, people. I hope you have enjoyed it, found it useful, and providing some guidance for next week. If that's the case, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Check out the Elevating Traders Discord channel, completely free to join, link to that in the description below. Join discussions, chat with myself, I share ideas there. And of course, you can find a lot more information about Elevating Traders if you are interested. But guys, appreciate you tuning in. Have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll catch you all in the new week.